All right, welcome back. Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to Game and Compute. Here at this podcast, we talk a lot about finance and the economy and money and hobbies and side hustles and that sort of thing. Today I wanted to talk about passion projects. So, I don't know about you, but I feel like passion projects are kind of what keeps my motivation pretty fueled. At least, at the very least, it gives me something to look forward to, something motivational, something goal-oriented, where I can really see if I'm, working on something and getting somewhere on it, learning what I need to learn to kind of get to the next steps and enjoying it in whatever area that may be. Usually it's creative stuff. But other times it's, there can also be like some kind of like self-development type of things. Like, it kind of just depends what's going on and what I feel like I need to be doing. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing because I notice there can sometimes be this I think I've mentioned this before. It's kind of something that I notice a lot with people when they talk about stuff that they want to do. They're kind of like, okay, like I want to do this, I want to do that. Common things people say, like, oh, I want to learn this language, or I want to, learn an instrument or something like that. Like, I don't know if that's still something that people commonly say, but I know that those are probably two of the most common things that I heard people say in the past. And I think that just kind of speaks to, how much most people like to kind of learn as they go and learn something that they think is like interesting to them, whether it's their own culture or other cultures or their own kind of like area where they live, or something that just kind of fascinates them about the world that they want to learn about and be involved with, and even connect to other people who are doing it or similar things, and have like a sense of community surrounding like different types of stuff. So I've always found that really interesting, that there does tend to be that, is it like a juxtaposition? I don't know what you would call it. Kind of like it's like a, like, kind of how people tend to say, like, based on how exhausted they are at a current moment, it's not uncommon for people to say, oh, I just want to, never work again and have all these days off and like never do anything ever again. Like, I think most of us don't really actually believe that our lives would be very fulfilled just laying in bed and sleeping. I mean, I think since most people don't have a lot of opportunity to do that on a regular basis, I think people say that kind of thing. In my opinion, it seems like people say that kind of thing because of the level of exhaustion and fatigue that they currently feel. That's what it feels like to them. Like, it's so intense that they feel like, oh man, I literally feel like I could sleep for years, and that's what I need for me to feel like recovered and refreshed and waking up every day feeling better. Like, but I do hear people say that about like work, and I heard it more in before 2019 and before that. But I think once the Rona hit, it seems like most people kind of didn't really say that as much. Like, you do come across people who say that, it's the weekend coming, I just want to sleep. and maybe they do that. I mean, I'll do that on an occasional weekend too, but it's like I don't feel like I really get a lot out of it. It feels like time wasted. Today I'm having a day where I'm super exhausted. I'm probably literally gonna nap during my lunch break, and I don't even care. Like, I'm just like, all right, whatever. I am literally that tired. But yeah, it's just I've had multiple nights of poor sleep, but I just think it's interesting because kind of like what people say kind of tells a lot about American society's energy. Like, I'm mostly talking about Americans. I don't really know how how people in other countries really talk about this kind of stuff, but I know in Southern California, it's very common to hear people like, oh, I'm just like so exhausted all the time. Like, there's never enough rest that you can get, and even when you do have breaks, they're never long enough. Like, when you take PTO, or when you have like, something like between jobs, or between like one school program to like another, even like people who take off full summer vacations, like they still feel like barely recovered. A lot of people are still working and going to school. Like, there's like this combination of things people are always just like doing, like literally just to kind of live comfortably enough and pay the bills. Like, it's not like there's a whole lot of luxury for the majority of our generation. Like, not right away. Like, I live in an area where it's very common that, when you're still in your 30s, you're still kind of struggling. 20s and 30s, you're still kind of struggling. It's very hard to be like straight out of high school and get decent work. And that's why most people move, because it's like the opportunities do take a length of time, and you do have to have a certain amount of stability to be able to really sustain a life in areas like Southern California, especially the closer you get to, like to the coast. If you're not as inland, the closer you are to the coast, it is a little more of a faster pace lifestyle. It is a little more, crowded and competitive and expensive and just busy. Like, I noticed just from being back, in LA, from being in San Diego for so long, it's like I kind of forgot about that kind of hustle. And it is just tiring. Like, like I'm literally like, I think the reason why I wake up so early is because like when traffic picks up, because we're off a highway, and like when traffic picks up, it's kind of like just the noise in the background that you can kind of tell. And like everyone knows, I struggle with insomnia. My sleep is always just, who knows what's gonna happen. So when I'm going to sleep, usually I can hear kind of what time of night it is based on the traffic. Like, if the traffic is pretty slowed, I'm like, oh man, it's like super late and I'm still up, But once it starts picking up, I'm like, morning's coming, it's almost getting closer to, the sun's gonna start coming up soon, and I'm up, it's like I'm up early again, and it's like it's kind of almost one of those things that kind of tells me the time of day or the time of week, just like the noise levels in the air. And it's just an interesting thing, but yeah, I do think that it does kind of matter what kind of environment you're in. Like, some people really love the city environment, the pace of things. I like it because it's kind of like, everybody else is up, let's get up, let's go. Like, it kind of gets me that kind of like, okay, I'm just a part of this city too, and a part of the daily grind everybody else is doing. I don't know if you'd even call that like a hive mentality, but it's kind of almost like that. It's like, I kind of like, it kind of feels like you're like a part of, a moving, I don't know if you call it like an organism, but it's like an environment that's just like moving around you, and you kind of pick up on things, just almost like You can pick up on, what time of day it is based on the sun and the shadows. Like the more time you spend kind of outdoors, you kind of notice like, okay, like the sun's about here, it's about this time of day. The heat's like this, it's about this time of day. The marine layer's rolling in, it's about this time of day. It's a little breezy around this time of day. You kind of can tell, based on like the heat and the humidity and the moisture, like, the sun and the shadows and stuff, kind of what time of day it really is. So I find that interesting. And especially like going back to talking about like the passion projects, like I say all that to kind of just like talk about motivation a little bit when it comes to that. Like I think, passion projects kind of help towards motivation. It's also pretty motivating to see other people doing stuff that you're motivated towards. It doesn't have to be like famous people, but I've noticed like when I go to like, concerts or festivals or whatever and see like certain DJs or musicians, I really start noticing like how that affects my energy. Like it affects me in a positive way, and it makes it so I'm usually able to like I notice my energy's better for like maybe like up to 3 days or 4 days, just naturally the energy that comes off of like a festival or a concert and just like seeing live performances. I really, like, even if it's not a musician I really look up to a lot of musicians. Like, I know it's a lot of work. Like, when I was growing up, I used to play guitar, like, probably every day. The majority of high school, I probably played, like, every day, at least for, like, 30 minutes to an hour. Like, I don't remember not playing, in all honesty. But I think I played pretty much every day, and I enjoyed it, and it was fun, and I liked it, and it was very, really helped my mood and everything. Like, I definitely had a lot going on. Like, looking back, I had a lot going on, but, like, I don't think I really knew it. I just kind of, like, plowed through, and, now I'm like way more aware of like, ooh, like I was pushing like super hard. Like that was just the culture around me. I was around a bunch of workhorse types, so I didn't really know to like slow down. That never like really crossed my mind too much. But I think I've explained my lifestyle, how I kind of grew up. Just pretty much every day I was like out of the house. We never really had like days where we were like multiple days as a family nobody went out. Like that was super rare. Like maybe if it rained, sports league might be canceled, but it's not like we live in a place where it rains all that much. Like LA doesn't rain that much where like you're getting stuff canceled. And you can still play sports in the rain. Like we used to not really play sports if it was like raining. But there was always like an indoor gym for like basketball. So usually it was only baseball and soccer seasons on Sundays, if it would rain. And so like just having the combination of it being of baseball or soccer season, or, a Sunday where it's actually raining hard enough throughout the day where you have to cancel all the games. Like that wasn't like a normal thing. Like it might be a rainy season, but it would never really rain all day. And if it did rain, it wasn't that heavy. And, but there were some times of the year when the field would like flood and stuff, but that really wasn't that often. But, yeah, we were pretty busy all the time. And I kind of just grew up in a lifestyle where like I didn't really have days where I was like gonna sit, like sleep in and like lay around, and like I didn't really do that. That wasn't really like a thing we did. Like maybe if it was like a 3-day weekend, that might be the only time that we might do something like that. But yeah, literally pretty much, I used to have to be to school by 8 or 8:30 depending on the school. And then I used to have to be at church by like 9:30, I think it was 9 or 9:30. And then I used to have to be at sports by, I don't know what time. I think the latest I ever got there was like 10 a.m. But usually we were out of the house by like 6:30 a.m. when we were setting stuff up, and we would be the last to leave. So we get home by like dinner. And so I don't really think, up until college, pretty much, that's when my life kind of changed more into like the habits that I saw more around me of people sleeping in more and stuff. But I don't think it helped. I really don't think it helped. I really don't find that it helped me more in my life to have it, because I didn't really have like that schedule. Like, when you're in elementary, high school or whatever, you go to school from like 8 to 3 or whatever it is. Like in college, you might have like one afternoon class some days or something like that. And like, I was usually studying all the time, but I kind of had more of a casual schedule. But yeah, I remember those times in my life, and kind of once I kind of dropped sports on Sundays, then I had kind of more of a Sunday free day. And in my mind, I remember thinking, like during high school, like, man, I just wish I had some days where I could just like not have to do anything. But then I found when I didn't have, like, the more times in my life when I had less obligations, those were the times in my life that were probably some of the hardest, because I didn't have anything to really like do. Like, I wasn't doing anything. I mean, it's really hard to fill a day if you don't have anything to do. Like, I think like 1 or 2 days I can maybe do that, for like maybe 3. But even when I had COVID, I was like a week I was out, and then like even though I was still testing positive for COVID, I didn't really want to lay around anymore. I was like, okay, once my voice is well enough to talk, like, let me just work, because I'm working remotely. It's not like I'm coming in to infect people. So I was like, well, let me just work, let me just get my work in, and like do something every day. Like, I couldn't even lay around for a week, and I was sick. Like, I was just kind of like a little restless and not too happy with it. I was kind of disappointed that it was like a waste of a week of my PTO where I couldn't even go out and do anything. That was pretty shitty, but it just wasn't ideal for me. And so I don't know. I think passion projects they really help, to put things into perspective. But I don't really know, how many people really gravitate towards what type of stuff. Like for me, it's more like the stuff that I've always kind of done from when I was younger. Just the difference is now that, if I want to buy something, I can kind of just like afford to buy stuff that I like. Like, I recently got a drum machine that I really liked. It's one that I actually had before, but this one I got the 3rd version, and the one I had before was the 2nd version. And I really like it, but just because the Wi-Fi in this house is just like not too great. My music software doesn't really work too good, and like, I don't mind when it's like Reason. I use Reason Studios, but I have a guitar, I have a keyboard. Well, I have 2 guitars, 2 guitars, 1 keyboard. And I do like to kind of play, like in my room where all my instruments are. Like, I don't really want to be like moving all my stuff, closer to the part of the house where the Wi-Fi is better. It's kind of like I'll be on my laptop, like in the other rooms, working on like closer to the Wi-Fi, kind of working on like beats and stuff like that. But kind of once I get like a foundation, I like to kind of be like on the keyboard or plug in my guitar and just like play along that way. But it's actually really hard to do that. It's pretty hard to do that, like, mainly because I don't really have a way to just easily be where they're, like, I need to have Wi-Fi basically for the software to operate. And so I started noticing, even though I just got the drum machine not that long ago, I was like, I'm not very likely to be like in the living room, with this drum machine, and like all my instruments are on the other side of the house. Like, that's not really gonna work, because I was wanting to use it kind of like live with the tracks I make, but I have to have Wi-Fi, like good enough Wi-Fi for that too. So it's kind of like, it's not really gonna work. And I don't think my family's gonna upgrade the Wi-Fi anytime soon, because they don't really care. Like for work, I use my work's hotspot most of the day, and then on my own personal time, I'm basically on my phone. So, and my phone has 5G. Like, I'm hardly on the Wi-Fi, and when I am, it's like not for like super important stuff. So yeah, it's kind of a Wi-Fi issue. So I was like, well, if I'm not going to use it very often, I might as well just return it. So I'm going to be returning it probably this week or this weekend, and then just move on with my life. But yeah, I was like, okay, the Wi-Fi needs to be better, because basically what happens is I can't play back at regular speed the tracks that I have in Reason. So it's kind of hard to play along live to anything if you're on keyboard or drum machine or a guitar. If your music is playing, like the track's playing in slow motion, basically. So it's like, and it's like not like the best computer. Like, this computer is not built for this type of activity. But it is a Wi-Fi thing. Like, I've tested it that, when it's closer to the Wi-Fi and the Wi-Fi signal stronger, everything plays back in real-time speed. But it's just, how I have my stuff organized. Yeah, it needs to be organized in a way that I can, get to everything, that I need. Otherwise, it's like, I'm not going to be going back and like setting up and then going back to the other place and then going back to another room and then going back. It's like, I'm lazy enough as it is. Like, there's no way I'm going to really be doing that. Like, once I kind of get in one station of the house, I like to just sit there and do what I'm doing. I don't want to be like going from room to room. But it's just kind of my thing. Like, I really don't have a lot of space to move all my stuff, and I don't think anybody tampers with my things, but I just like them in a space where they're fully within my control. Like, I don't want anybody touching my instruments and stuff, so I tend to not keep them out in like public areas. Just, you never know if someone's going to be walking around at night in the dark and like stumble over your stuff and break it. And it's like, if that happens, I want it to be me. I don't want it to be somebody else. Like, but yeah, other than music, just like writing in general is something I love doing. But I did kind of take the writing more into podcasting, just because it is a little more efficient for me. With writing, it's like I do have to edit and write. And I love writing, but it's like, I write a lot at work too. So it's kind of a little bit of one of those tasks where I'm like, sometimes I just don't want to do more writing again. So podcasting's kind of like, usually I'm podcasting about the stuff I would be writing about anyways. And I don't know, I'm a little conflicted about the whole blog posting thing. Like, I don't mind posting it, but I don't really think it adds too much value. Like, I don't know if I'm like double dipping into like the same topics and then just like I don't want to be like regurgitating stuff. But also, it's like, sometimes things in written form, it adds a little bit more value if there's other content there. But I don't think I really have like the vision right now to be making like full-on blog posts with like, individualized, like different sorts of things going on in every post. Like I'm not really doing a lot of visually creative stuff right now. Like I have friends who are, but I'm kind of not right now. Like I'm just trying to focus. Like when I get more into like painting and like not necessarily graphic design, but like, you know, I kind of dabble with like 3D modeling and like just like graphics in general and stuff like that. Like I kind of like cover art style type of stuff. That's kind of the style of things that I kind of like not fully making something from scratch. Like if it's a 3D model, I'll usually do that from scratch. But if it's not a 3D model, if it's like a bigger model, like a different type of artwork, like I was saying, stuff that's kind of similar to like cover art type of work, I would probably, yeah, I usually just like take stuff from like other like artwork and just kind of like put it, it's kind of like clip art style. Like I just kind of put it like into my own designs. Like I haven't done anything like that in a really long time, but I like that kind of stuff, drawing, painting, whatever, like, but it's a lot. Like I kind of go through phases. Like sometimes I'm more in a musical phase. Like this summer is definitely a musical phase. I'm not really practicing, which is the weird thing. Like I'm kind of like dabbling with like all these weird like electronic instruments, which is fun for me, but it's like I'm kind of getting nowhere. I'm just like building sounds out of sound banks and like testing them out of how they sound in like different headphones. Like I don't have a proper speaker right now. I've got this really shitty Bluetooth speaker. The bass is all weird and like it peaks at like weird places. Like it's a little like it's better than my iPhone speaker, but I think my best headphones are my lightning cable earbuds basically. But then it's like hard to really get a feel for how does this sound. Like I have an amp, but it's a Behringer Ultra Twin. Like it's not like a really like good amp. My favorite amp that I don't know if it's still in the garage, which I needed to check and I keep forgetting. It's a Roland keyboard amp. It's not as the sound is just better than this Behringer. I think the Behringer's louder and it has a built-in pedal, which is something I like because it has more effects on it. But I don't really use the effects on there. I tend to build more effects in Reason or Record, and I would use those effects like with my guitar through the computer. So I'm kind of debating if I'm gonna phase out this Behringer amp. I really don't know. It's a big decision. Like I bought this thing for like a Battle of the Bands back when I was in like, dude, it must have been like, I was still going to the Attic on Friday nights. It's a place in like, I don't know if it's technically Lomita or Torrance, where they'd have like live like local punk bands, but they were like, I think they were kind of Christian based. Like I think it was hosted by a church group, but they had this like property that wasn't on a church property. So it was people that were either making Christian music or had Christian music or something, and they would just like play the music live. It would just be live, like, you know, it was seating, kind of like I don't remember if we were just sitting in groups or if there were tables and we would sit at the tables. I don't know. It wasn't fancy, but it was basically just think of like a room, like a little conference room. There was just like, there was nothing in there except for like equipment that was up in the front for people to play. And then the bands would sometimes have their own equipment, and there'd be like a PA system towards the back and like lighting where they control the lighting and stuff. It wasn't like crazy light shows or anything, but just like basic lighting and stuff. Sometimes they do like more dim settings and stuff like that. or if the bands had like an idea about what they wanted for the lighting setup, they would like arrange that with somebody. And so at the attic they would basically play just live music, and it would be Friday nights. So usually after our youth group, we would walk/skate over to the attic. And mind you, we still had church the next morning, but we would go there like almost every Friday night. It was happening, and we would get flyers for the whatever bands were playing locally that we could get to. It was kind of Christian bands. Like, it was either they're Christian and their music was like kind of G-rated clean, or they were making like Christian type music. So a lot of times it was like heavier punk style, like kind of like cross between like metal, new metal, like it was rock though, like different types of rock, for sure. And it was just like seating, but it was like chair. I think they were like those metal or plastic kind of folding chairs, and I want to say we were seated at tables. But the band, there was no real stage. It was just like the band played like at floor level, and they would just have like probably 3, 4, 5 bands a night play on Friday nights. And I think there was usually a $5 cover. And so I think that's why it was a little challenging for us to go, because it was like, it's Sabbath, and, our group was like a Sabbath type group. And so there was kind of like a little conflict about, are we allowed to pay to go to this event? Because it's a paid, cover. It was only like $5, but it was like a paid cover most times when we went. So I remember sometimes it was free, and then sometimes it was like a cover. So I remember multiple times when we went, some of my friends that didn't pay on the Sabbath, they wouldn't go in, and then the rest of us who didn't mind to pay, we would just pay and go in. And then a lot of us I was kind of more like, because I used to follow that rule. I didn't used to like pay for a lot of stuff on the Sabbath, but I used to be like, well, if it's Christian music, it's a Christian facility, and the money's going to like a Christian thing. Like, I didn't really have an issue with that necessarily. Like, I don't know, we kind of like make up our own rules. It's not really like something that really it's not really gonna matter that much to every person, but that's kind of what I remember doing. And then, yeah, like, I used to get, like, pretty inspired watching them play live, and, like, yeah, I kind of would play with effects and stuff. And I always have been playing with effects. Like, I don't know why. That's, like, something that I really am very entertained by. Just, like, something that sounds cool, even if I'm, like, I'll usually find sounds that sound cool to me, and then I'll make, like, a riff that I really like, and then I'll just record that and just leave it alone. And I can do that. I can be in that process for like months. And then, I'll have tons and tons of pieces of content. And then, eventually I'll want to write a song. And then usually I'll pull from the stuff that I already have, because I usually have like tons and tons of like riffs and things. So I'm basically, this is like so lengthy to explain. I think I gave way too much background info. Like, I'm not organized at all, guys. I'm just kind of killing time, honestly. But jeez, I'm on hold at work. If you're wondering, I am waiting for this hospital to pick up their damn phone. It's been like over 30 minutes and they're freaking still. I mean, it is like during the lunch hour, so they usually don't pick up anyways, but it's like, oh my gosh, like, where is everybody today? Like, the month is coming to a close next week, so I think this is the first full week, the last full week this month that we have. So as we approach Friday of the last full week of the month, it's really hard to get through to every place that we need, but I haven't missed any client calls or anything. I'm just, Jesus. Okay, so there's that. And then that's kind of one thing that I do. just recording, on my guitar. It's like there's no real direction of it. I'm just like learning different effects and different capabilities of the instruments that are built into Reason, because there's a lot of newer ones that I never used. Like, I've been off of it for like a really long time now, and now that I've come back, I'm like, ooh, like there's all this cool stuff. And the thing I like about Reason, one of the things, is that you have multiple instruments built in already, and so you can just stick with one. Like, I like my classic ones. Like, I like the NNXT as the sampler for the keyboard, and then Redrum for the drum machine. That's usually all I really use. And then like the mixer, that I attach the Redrum to the main mixer, no, to the other mixer, and then the main mixer that's like built in just has its own effects in it. And then I use some apps. This app called Take. I think it was originally a Propellerhead app, but then when Propellerhead changed into Reason Studios, it made it so I couldn't, replay any of my links to anything I had recorded. So everything I recorded, once they changed companies, I still have the links, but it's like they don't work. So that's a bummer. I'm still trying to work that out. But I use Take because it's easy, it's straight to the point. I don't get distracted in like building things. I'm just like, let's just freaking use this. And so I'll usually have it turned on, and that's kind of what I would do if it's like a live recording and I just have like an idea. That's kind of an easy way to record it. Or if I'm just acoustic on guitar and I'm just like, you can make beats on there. Like, I've done like everything on guitar, like just kind of like make the beat with like the back of the guitar, you know what I mean? Like, because it is kind of like acoustic, so it's hollow, and you can kind of like make like a beat on there, a simple beat, and then that'll be one track, and then I can make a bass line too, as one track, and then, I can monitor those. This is all like on iPhone. I can monitor that as I'm making like, putting in like guitar riffs and stuff. And then if I do have vocals to add, I can add that too. I think it does 4 tracks, and then you can monitor them all. There's a little bit of effects on there. It's pretty cool. Like, I should probably review it. If I do like YouTube videos anytime, I might review it. But I really haven't done any like software reviews in a really long time. But yeah, I'm not really doing that lately. But yeah, I'm trying to go through my cassettes. I want to go through my cassette tapes, because that's where I have a bunch of riffs that I just never took off of there. So I want to get the ideas off of those recordings and just record them digitally. That is, if I can remember how to play them, because I remember I used to make some weird, like, complex chord arrangements where it was like, it was really cool, but I don't know if I ever wrote this stuff down. Like the chord progressions, and like, I really don't know if I could figure it out, because there was a time when I was like doing all these like, I don't know, like whatever, like D add 9 over whatever, and like all this kind of weird tunings and stuff, and like, so I don't know what I was doing, so I don't know if I could even figure that one out. I might just have to record them as like samples or something. I don't really know. Like, I might have to just upload them as samples into like a sampler. I really don't know if I can figure it out, because I don't really do that anymore. Like, I don't really like create chords or use very complex chords anymore. I used to learn these really complex chords and then just make these weird like rhythms, and like, I don't even know how to describe what I don't know. Like, I'm more of a rhythm guitarist, and so I've never really been too much like of a melody person. I mean, I understand that most people, I think, really gravitate towards the melody of a song. I've always been more like beats and rhythm. And so like in my head, usually I can think of like a beat to a song, or even like a rhythm, layered onto the beat, and it doesn't really have to really match, kind of almost similar to how Symphony X plays. But a lot of times what happens is like the music that I can think of is more complex than what I can actually play physically with my own physical ability. I can't really play it. So that's what I like about computers, is you can kind of, write stuff in. Like you can make the notes like on piano or whatever. You can make the notes, you can write them in, and it can play it for you even if you physically don't have the skill to do it. But it still takes so much effort and so much time, and like that's basically what I'm working on lately. Just kind of going back through my old music, and then I'm gonna incorporate it into some of the stuff that I just explained that I was doing. But yeah, I don't really post anymore. As far as songs, I mean, I might do that. I don't know. Like anytime when it takes me a length of time to upload something, if it's gonna, like, the uploading process gets in my way, of actually releasing whatever I was working on. Like usually I delay on posting stuff. Like I'll record stuff, I'll save stuff, I'll edit stuff, but the posting is the issue. It's like sometimes I'm like, it takes so long to upload something. Like I explained my Wi-Fi situation. Sometimes it takes so long to upload something that I'm just not going to do it. Like if it takes 15 minutes to upload a song, I'm not going to do it, in all honesty. Like even with these podcasts, sometimes it takes like probably about a bathroom break's length of time to like upload to process an episode. And it doesn't seem to matter if it's 10 minutes or an hour and a half. Like it takes about a bathroom break's worth of time. And so I haven't really been using that too much, but yeah, that's kind of what I'm working on. I'm enjoying myself with it. It makes life feel a lot more wholesome, and like it's just hard to really explain, because I'm a project person. I like having projects. I just don't usually like to talk about them too much, because I think it kind of puts a little bit of pressure on me about stuff, because like when I'm working on something, I like to be working on it, right? So if I say I'm working on X, Y, or Z, I don't want to, I don't like people to kind of ask me about it. Like, I mean, I do like people to ask me about it. That's not what I meant. I meant, if there's something that I'm saying I want to do, but I haven't started on it yet, I don't really like people to really ask me about it. So, for example, like, and this isn't even a, this isn't even a, this isn't even like about like passion projects, but I remember recently I was telling one of my friends that I knew from one of the churches that started where our other friend was the pastor. I've known this guy for like 10 years, maybe more than 10 years, 15 years. And we were talking, catching up, and I was kind of telling him what I'm doing with work and stuff. Like trying to get out of the clinical field, and he's kind of like, oh, like what are you kind of thinking that you're gonna like go into next? And I was kind of like, I don't really like talking about things that I don't really have like I don't really know what I'm doing, honestly. I know kind of, but I kind of don't have like a solid answer, so it's kind of like I don't really like I don't like the whole all talk, no action. Like I try to be careful about that. Like not like I don't think people are judging me. I don't think people care. Like it's just my own thing. Like I kind of don't like to put energy into talking about something that I'm not doing. But I mean, it does kind of help to like process where I want to go with something when I'm not too sure. So maybe I should talk about it more. But I feel like sometimes, like when I hear other people's input, or when I hear other people's opinions, or when I hear other people's like even when I hear myself saying something and I'm just kind of like, wait, maybe that's not really the direction I really want to go. Like, I mean, it does help to move things along, but it's still kind of like a little much for me. I'm kind of more of like, let me internally process this a lot by myself. And then once I start putting stuff into action, like actually applying to places and stuff like that, I don't mind talking about that. But it's kind of harder for me to really involve others in my processing stage. Like that's not really something that I tend to want to do, just because I don't really want to hear, like I go through phases where I don't want to hear what anybody has to say about anything that I'm trying to work on, until I want to share it, and then it's, open, for anybody to say whatever they want. It's just, I don't know why, like sometimes I go through phases where I'm just like, I just don't want to hear about anything anyone has to say about this new thing. And usually it's with new stuff. And then once it's been like established for a while, then I'm kind of like, whatever, I don't really care if people have opinions. So it does kind of make it a little harder for me to like post stuff, especially because, like I mentioned, I have like bits and pieces of like little things all over the place, but it's not like a solid song that would be like something that people would listen to. It's just like sound effects and stuff, and like riffs. At most it's like riffs of sound effects, or like beats to certain riffs. That's mostly what it is. It's not like a lot of like finished stuff. Like I don't usually finish a lot of things until I'm in the mood to actually produce a solid thing, and then I'll sit there for like a weekend and just like bang out a song. But usually when it's music, for me, usually I'm just like working on bits and pieces of stuff. I'll tend to do that for a long time, because then I like to have like options. And the way I choose what I'm gonna actually record, that's kind of more based on kind of my mood. Like I've never really like fully analyzed it before, but I do think when I have a lot going on, I do tend to make a lot more complex, kind of a little complex and what would you call it? Like complex musical like parts to music, and then it is a little bit more scattered. It's, I don't even know how to describe it. The closest thing I can describe it as that people would probably know would be like cool jazz. Like if you ever like listen to like a cool jazz track that you've never like heard before and you're not familiar with it, and you're just like, everybody's just doing everything. It just sounds like everything all over the place. Like that's kind of how music sounds in my head. It's like I can decipher what's what, but when I want to put it together, it's like, this is how it is. And it's kind of another thing that keeps me from not really posting stuff that I make. One thing is it's hard for me to post stuff when it sounds a certain non-mainstream way, if that makes sense. So like I mentioned, sometimes I write really complex sounding music, or tunes, if you want to call it just that. Like it's not, I don't even want to call it like music because sometimes they're not like fully finished songs, but like a track of some sort that's like a little bit on the complex side, usually those I'm not gonna post because they don't sound normal. Like they don't sound like intro, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, outro. Like they don't have that kind of flow to them. They're more of like, what the fuck is going on here? Like that's kind of how they are. It's just like a creative experience. like it's almost like if you've listened to like the Mars Volta or like Led Zeppelin or like some of those like bands that have this style where there's like almost this like jam session style to some of their music. Especially like rock and roll type artists, and like when they started doing more of like that like jam style kind of like style of music, like it's kind of like that. Like if you take like a jam session and you just like throw it into something like a song, it's more like that. Like it's not something that anybody would ever find catchy or casual. It's like just a little bit complicated. But I kind of like that, it kind of just fits my mood sometimes. I'm like, yeah, things are complicated. My music gets more complicated as my mind is more complicated, and that's fine with me. But then the problem is when I'm out of that state of mind and I just want to do something simple, those aren't the songs I'm usually going to go back to. And like, what the heck was I trying to do with this? Like, usually those types of pieces, if I put them down, I cannot come back to them because I don't even know like where I was going with it. Like I don't remember the direction. But that's kind of, mostly what I like doing. Like, that's what I'm working on now. Not like right now. Right now, I'm still waiting for this clinic to answer their phone. Like, y'all should be off lunch by now. Like, man, like, I can really record like an entire podcast episode while these guys are like not even answering their phones. And the bad thing is their lines disconnect. Once they disconnect on me, then I'm like, great, now you're disconnected and I have to call again, wait on hold again. It's like, this is my life. No, I appreciate it sometimes. Honestly, I appreciate it right now. It's totally fine. It gives me like a break in the day. So I'd rather be a little bit productive if I'm just going to be sitting on hold. Like I was listening to music before this and I got some recommendations of music from a coworker. One recommendation was for Soviet. The other recommendation was for, what was it called? Crystal Castles. And so, yeah, I was listening to some of that stuff. The Crystal Castles, their cover art is a little bit disturbing to me. I don't really like their cover art. I don't like looking at it. I'll put it that way. I don't know. That's not really my vibe. It's kind of creepy, but I'm sure other people enjoy it. I like the artistic aspect of it. It's just a little dark and creepy to me, so I'm gonna leave it alone. But the songs that I have come across with those groups, I liked what I heard. So I was listening to that during work and like Teams messaging a work friend about that and about a rave that's coming up in September and about some concerts coming up in October, and kind of having it's going to be a pretty musical filled day, so I'm kind of having a musical day. I've been cleaning a lot lately, trying to like organize some space so that I can get my keyboard amp in here. I think I have space for it. My bedroom's becoming like back to the form of its little studio and workstation that it used to be. I might consider if I'm gonna put up a video about it or not. I don't usually make videos of my bedroom, but this one is kind of a little fun of a bedroom because I left a bunch of stuff here like maybe 10 years ago. Maybe even before. I have stuff in here from like before 10 years ago, honestly. Probably like 15-20-year-old stuff that I have in this room that is kind of exciting, to see sometimes. So I kind of like that. I've got these old like computer music magazines and like some Premier guitar magazines, some CD-ROMs, books, some little shamisen accessories, just a bunch of books everywhere. But yeah, I was cleaning out some space so that I can reorganize some of my areas so that I can just maximize some of this. I kind of have like a lot of, if you want to call it, counter space. Like, so basically my keyboard, this is nonsense. Like, you guys don't need to care about this, but basically my keyboard, my work desk, which is basically like a desk that I got from my friends, my family friends, now my family friends and close friends, now deceased mother, unfortunately. She gave me this desk that's like small. It's like one of those desks that you keep near the front door, or like in like a room where it's kind of like, you might put notes or a phone, like back when people had like landline phones, and you could probably sit there and take notes. It's kind of one of those desks. I don't know what they're called, but it's not like a normal desk. It's like a decorative looking kind of desk. And what happened way back in like high school, like maybe my junior year, maybe like my junior year of high school, my dad upgraded our bedroom furniture because we were having a lot of family come, and he was like, like he found these bedroom sets. So my bedroom set was like a full-size bed with 2 night tables, and an upright dresser with 5 drawers, and then I don't know what you call it, like those long dressers, like, you know what I mean? Those long dressers with a mirror on it. So basically, my upright dresser is in my closet. So half of my closet is the dresser. And then my keyboard is on one wall. My work desk is on, the adjacent wall. And the long dresser is on, like, right next to my desk. So if I clean off that long dresser, it's the same height, pretty much the same height as my desk that I use for work. And then the way my keyboard is set up, the keyboard is at a height that's just about the same as my desk as well. So I used to have a different setup where my desk was right next to my keyboard, and I would play on my keyboard and, use the desk as like a computer space, so I could use Reason and have like a whole setup like that. And then I had to change it up a little bit. And so I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to arrange it. I'm thinking of some ways to organize this room so it makes a little bit more sense, because I only like my work desk to be my work desk. I don't touch that desk outside of work because it's the space that I work in, and I don't like mixing work with any other thing. Like, I don't like to think about work or associate even a workspace with anything relaxing or creative at all. Like, I do not mix the two. It's like oil and water. They're just not gonna mix. I completely keep it separate. I don't use that desk unless I'm literally working. Like, I don't ever use it for anything else. So I'm kind of debating if I'm gonna move my keyboard over by my dresser, because it's like the same height as the dresser too, like the keyboard stand is, and so then I'd have more of a space to work on music, it's kind of crammed. Like it's like the setup I used to have, I don't have it anymore. I used to sit on top of my amp and play guitar. I don't know, I've had a lot of little setups, but this hour's running out of time, so I'm just gonna log off of here, and thanks for listening.